Hello everyone, this is Tina with Tia's Treasures, and after a long illness and some other stuff, I am back. The algorithm probably hates me, but I have got Simon Says Stamps June 2024 card kit, and let's take it out and take a look at what we've got. And I'm excited to see this. Ooh, looky there. Come on, you. Out of the way. I believe this is called, what's it called? The card kit is Sweet Birthday. So, ooh, a grape one. I do not have a grape lollipop, so I'll put that aside. And let's take a look at what comes in this kit. We have a great embossing folder called Winslow Medallions. That looks interesting. We've got our inspiration sheet. We have a coupon code, LEAP24. So put that to the side. We have a couple sheets of holographic paper, the A2 holographic size. We have a happy birthday wishes die. It's a nice size. And we have a cupcake and 2 candles die, which I believe is for this and for these two. You can get dies for everything. I believe they have a separate die for these cupcakes and the macaroon and the lollipop, and a separate die set for the sentiments if you want that, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, yeah, and speaking of this stamp set, that is pretty cool. Wishes, birthday, happy, it's your. So happy birthday or birthday wishes, or this beautiful font there. It's really pretty. And then a bunch of just wishing you the best. May you feel celebrated. You know, some really cool sub-sentiments or inside the card sentiments as it may be. And we have a pink, a blue, and I assume that's Nina, 110 pound. Let's see, the blue is Surf Blue, and the pink, it's supposed to be Dow Pink, but that's not Dow Pink. Dow Pink is a much brighter color. So I am not sure what color of pink I have, but it is a pretty pink. Dow Pink, I believe, is, let's see. As you're waiting for me to find Dow Pink, and I am not going to find it simply by turning around, so I might as well take a look at these. Maybe I'll show you Dow Pink when I come back to making cards. Anyway, we have double-sided pattern paper. Very nice. And I'm not sure who this is by. Some little cut aparts. And oh, that's pretty. Don't know how you'd use that on an A2 card. I guess you could cut it and shrink it, and if you're very handy with scissors. Not that I am. It's kind of like a patchwork quilt of some sort, only really tiny. Some more cut aparts. I like that one. So this is by, who is it by? Pink Fresh Studio. Now let's see, we also have 3 watercolor pencils, and I have got Brush Corduroy, Spun Sugar, and Broken China. I have the full set, all 72 of Tim Holtz's colors, so I'm going to have to do some watercoloring with this card kit somehow. Anyhow, that is everything in this month's card kit. So let me think about what I'm gonna do, and let's make some cards. So for my first card here, I am stamping out the cupcake and the candle, and I'm using some Memento black ink because I am going to do a little bit of alcohol marker coloring on these. So I get them stamped, and it stamps pretty good the first time, but my frosting looked like it had a little something, some fuzz or something in it, and I had to have come from the stamp pad because the stamp itself, being brand new, had nothing in it. So I pulled out a bunch of Copics, and I'm going to go ahead and color. Now for the smaller images like the candle and the flame, I only use like one color. I don't do any shading. Now when I say one color, I mean one color, like per section. I'm still using multiple colors on the candle itself, but I don't bother trying to do any shading or, like dark to light. It's just too small of an area. Now you can see, of course, that I stamped my frosting a second time up there, and it came out fine that time. Now I've got this sped up. I think it's like sped up 4 times its normal speed because this is like ultra fast coloring. It's like Superman coloring, and yeah, I can't do it this quick. But here I am trying to test out my little blues to make sure they all go together, because sometimes I don't think I have the right colors of Copics. I need more to kind of get some good blends. Well, at least that's what I think, but I think it's all in my head too. So anyway, so I've got my 3 blues, and a lot of times I do start from darkest to lightest, and I just figure it's easier for me to kind of put in where I think the shadow's going to be, and then I can try to do the medium over the dark a little bit, and then I pull in the lightest and just try to go over the whole thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it looks stupid, but I'm still trying to learn with this. But I do like the way it turned out. And I've got the 3 different color of pinks for my frosting as well. And I think they make a fine blend. And I'm just gonna get them all done here. I was editing this video earlier, and I probably should have done the voiceover earlier when I was a little bit more awake. I didn't sleep last night, and so I have this feeling I'm going to be doing a boring voiceover. So I hope I don't bore you too much. So I cut them out, with the dies that came with the kit. And now I'm going to use some vellum that I got out of my stash. And I am going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to heat emboss with some clear embossing powder. And the biggest problem I end up having is I think I need better vellum, even though I was real careful and trying not to point the heat gun at it too much, like I'd go off and on and off and on until when I was embossing it, it still warped pretty bad, which you'll see in the final product. But I still went ahead and used it because I figured it was still a pretty good idea. It doesn't look that bad. I say that bad. I mean, it's who is it? Amy R. that says perfection is overrated. Well, that's kind of how I was feeling with this card. This card ended up taking me almost the longest, and I had a lot of trouble with it. But I think my cupcake turned out beautifully. My little vanilla cupcake. And so I'm just trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to put the happy birthday. So I've got my little cupcake there to make sure I can fit it on the vellum. And the reason I went ahead and used vellum was because I really like that blue pattern paper, and I didn't want to cover up too much of it. And so once I figure out my placement, I just move the cupcake out of the way momentarily, and I go ahead and stamp my happy birthday. I end up having to stamp it twice because I did a really, really bad job of inking it up the first time. And you'll see that when I close the MISTI. It's like I didn't get hardly any ink at all on the second half of birthday. So we're going to do that again, and which is fine. We would have stamped it twice anyway, being as we're going to use embossing powder. And that's another thing I forgot to do. I forgot to use my anti-static tool to make sure we didn't get embossing powder all over the vellum, but because it's clear embossing powder, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to see it. You can get away with that. It's about the only time. Now, if I was using black embossing powder, it would have been a mess. You'd have had little specks all over the place, which is why when I'm trying to emboss in black, I like to use black VersaFine ink with clear embossing powder. I think that gives the best results because black embossing powders like the devil, it'll get everywhere and you'll have little specks of it and it's just not pleasant. I would tell you what it looks like, but that would be kind of icky, so we'll just use your imagination. So you can see I'm kind of going back and forth, and it doesn't look like I'm warping the vellum as I'm doing this. And even after I finished, the vellum didn't look warped. It wasn't until I actually started like gluing it to my card that I'm like, huh, this is pretty warped. And I was sorely disappointed because, you know, I thought it's like, yeah, I didn't warp the vellum for once. I actually paid attention to what I was doing. But no, it's warped. It just took a while. I think as it cooled down, it warped more. I wonder if you could have, like, if I would have ironed it or, like, put it through my Minc, if that would have helped. But I might have to try that. I don't think it's hot enough to do anything to the embossing. It might be. I'm very curious now. If anybody knows, drop a comment, please, because I would love to know if you could put something that's embossed, like through your Minc, to flatten it. You know, I could try that maybe with some parchment paper, because then, you know, parchment paper I could throw away. Still got the carrier sheet that came with the Minc, so I would use parchment just in case it did end up getting everywhere. But here I am gluing down my cupcake and my candle, getting that on the vellum, because I'm going to put my glue behind the cupcake when I glue this vellum piece to the front of my card. Of course, we're going to have to come up with some different places to glue as well, because the bottom where it says happy birthday and the edges just curl all up on me. But I do think the little cupcake with the blue liner just works really wonderfully with this pattern paper. Now I'm using an A2 top folding card base, and I've got the pattern paper cut down to, what is it, 5 1/4 by 4, and just gluing my pattern paper down. I might have already said that. Did I mention I'm tired? So we get this beautiful piece of pattern paper. I think it's my favorite piece, actually, or my favorite pattern out of all of the different ones that came in the kit. And here you can see on the back where my vellum's kind of a little wrinkly where I put the glue. And I should have put a little bit of glue behind the happy birthday. I end up having to curl up my paper, the vellum, and gluing down, you know, putting some glue where the happy birthday is a little bit later. It would have been much easier to do it now, but I thought maybe the happy birthday was too fine, and I thought maybe you could see the glue, but with the happy birthday curling up at the end, it didn't really matter. I had to put some glue somewhere on there. Now I am just looking for my jewels, and I find them and I bring them out. My little what are they, the cool tones, and I'm going to use the jewels on the vellum because I see the sides, and you probably see them too, curling, and so I'm like, well, I need to put more glue behind the vellum, so if I put the little jewels on the vellum, I can glue underneath the jewels and glue it down a little bit better. And so I'm just kind of messing with it, trying to figure out my placement. Now I don't put any on the bottom half of the vellum, which is why I do go back and put the glue under the happy birthday. It just, it doesn't look right. And I mean, even on the top, the jewels are a little bit big, but I need them. You know, I need them to make it work. And so I'm going to just glue these down, and then I will lift up the vellum and put some glue underneath where the jewels are. And I am like really surprised we are into June already. And I haven't done much this summer. It's like just the beginning. So we planted a garden, and I planted sweet potatoes, and like 3 days later the rabbits had eaten them all. So we put this mesh all around the garden fence, and we planted some more sweet potatoes. And just 2 days ago, the rabbits chewed through the mesh and ate the sweet potatoes again. So finally, we went and we bought chicken wire. And so we put that all the way around, and we planted sweet potatoes for a third time. So hopefully a third time is a charm. Now we plant sweet potatoes every single year, and we've never had a problem with rabbits eating them before. But for some reason, they just decided they were going to park themselves in my backyard and eat my sweet potatoes. Now, they didn't touch the peppers or the tomatoes, so that's a good thing. I mean, that's all we've got in the garden is 3 varieties of tomatoes, and I think 4 varieties of peppers, jalapenos, poblanos, green peppers, and spicy green peppers. And then, and then the sweet potatoes, which we grow every year. So I don't think rabbits like peppers. So you can see where I put the jewels on the very bottom of the card to try to balance it. And I think this card, you know, even though the vellum is a little warped, I think it turned out rather well. I still love the colors, and I think it's a pretty card. I am like, maybe I should buy more vellum, but I have so much vellum left, and I really don't do a whole lot of embossing on it. So here I just took my Spectrum Noir pen and my glitter pen, and I'm just like shimmering up that frosting a little bit. I mean, I know we have the bling, but the shimmer is really pretty. And so that's card 1. Now for card 2, this is a very simple card. What I did was I took the blue paper that came in the kit, the surf blue, and we're using that as a card base. And I took the little holographic paper and I ran it through with the embossing folder, and I just cut it in 2 pieces, leaving a great big section in the middle where we're going to put birthday wishes. Now I did all this, you know, ahead of time because I think you know how to run an embossing folder through your die cutting machine, and the same thing with the die that says birthday wishes. Now this is the color I used is the Doll Pink that I knew I had, but it didn't come in my kit, even though that's the color they listed. So I just figured I would pull it out so you could see what color Doll Pink actually is. It's a real vibrant pink. And I love the way the pinks and the blues are working in this kit. I just think it's really pretty. So I don't do a whole lot to this card other than, you know, glue down the birthday wishes in the middle. Now in hindsight, I probably should have built up the sentiment, but I don't think about that a whole lot. You know, there's certain things that a lot of card makers do that I don't know that I just forget to do it. And so I've got the birthday wishes just glued down flat, which doesn't really detract anything from the card, but I do think a little extra dimension would have been nice. But this card turns out really pretty anyway. And I debated putting like some more jewels on either side of birthday wishes, but I thought, well, this embossing is so shiny that I wasn't sure if I need it or not. So I'm still kind of debating, even now as I'm looking at the card in front of me, whether or not I should use a little bit more bling on this card. But yeah, so it takes me a while to get this glued down. At some point, I think I speed up the video so you don't have to watch how slow it really is to glue, put all that glue on the word birthday and wishes. And this sentiment is, the WIS part is separate from the rest of it. So you kind of got to get it, use some tweezers to make sure you can see that you're putting it in the right spot. And then there's also the two dots that you don't want to lose, the two little tittles. And I ended up gluing the one right here upside down, and it really bugged me. So off camera, I pulled it off and I recut out the dots and put it the right way. It just looks a lot better when it's facing right. You wouldn't even think you notice, but you do. I don't know why. It's one of those weird things. And I had a heck of a time with those dots wanting to like flip over on me. I mean, who would have thought it takes that long to like glue down a dot? And who would have thought that I'd still be talking about gluing down a dot? So anyway, after I get that glued down, the card is done, and I just love that embossing folder. I think you can use it for all sorts of things. So you can see I'm kind of like, should I use them? Nah, not now. Maybe later. And that's card number 2. All nice and shiny. Now for our third card here, I'm going to do some watercolor with the 3 watercolor pencils that came in the kit. So I'm using some Canton XL watercolor paper, and I am stamping out one of the lollipops to begin with. And I am going to be doing some simple masking because I want the 2 sticks. I want to do 2 lollipops, and I want the sticks to crisscross a little bit on the bottom. So I'm stamping this with some Versa Fine Black Onyx ink because it is fine for watercoloring. And I like how dark it is, and how usually I can just stamp once and get it to show up pretty good. And I'm just going to use a piece of a sticky note here, and I'm going to stamp on top of it so I can cut out just the stick portion, because that's what I'm going to need to mask. And I'm going to end up using a piece of low tack tape, and I'm going to tape that top half right there down. So, because there is such a little amount that I need really to be masked, this was super simple, and I'm not worried about saving it. And, I didn't even feel like pulling out masking paper for this. I just used, like you saw, an old Post-it note, and I am going to go ahead and crisscross those right at the bottom. And it does end up stamping beautifully. And I just love the reveal when you pull off the mask. Even, you know, the simple amount. Oh, look at that. I said it stamped beautifully, and I have to stamp it twice. Made a liar out of myself. I think I ended up in the middle, and I didn't get ink. Yeah, I'm having a little trouble there. I mean, the first one I didn't have any trouble with, but the second one I did. And as it turns out, the second one almost looks a little darker because I had to go over it a little bit more. So, I mean, it's just great when you pull off that mask and you're like, oh, it looks magic. So these are my 3 colors again. I have the Sponge Sugar, the Brushed Corduroy, and the, what's my blue? My blue one. That was Broken China. And I am going to go ahead and I'm going to use a water brush. And I'm just going to pick up the color directly from the pencil. And this is the first time I've watercolored like this with these. Usually I'll color it in and then I'll use a brush to spread it around. But I think taking the color directly from the pencil like this gives a pretty vibrant color. And so I've got this sped up. I think it's 4 times the speed of what I'm actually doing. And I'm just kind of trying to use the pink in every other section of the lollipop. And after I get the one side done, I'm going to switch over to the other lollipop, and I'm going to do it the opposite of the first one. I mean, it's not really noticeable. I guess if you look at it, you can tell that I've got the pink and the blue switched. But, I mean, you really have to be pretty, I don't know, pretty anal to notice that. Because if I didn't know I did it, I wouldn't have noticed it. Wouldn't it be nice if we could, like, watercolor or color this quickly? There was my head in the way right there. All those curls, and they weren't looking real good right there. Because I was doing this watercoloring, I want to say like 10 at night, and by 10 o'clock in the evening, if I'm just lounging at home, you know, I don't do anything with my hair, and it's a big poofy mess. I look like a poodle. So I love this pink and this blue together. I think it's really pretty. I debated pulling in a different shade of blue, but in the end, I'm kind of glad that I stuck with this. And I did think about like bringing maybe a different shade of pink. The flamingo, is it flamingo? Kitsch flamingo I thought about using. That's a deeper pink. But I was like, these were the colors my kit came with, so these are the colors I'm going to use. And I used the Brushed Corduroy for the sticks, which is like a yellowy. I thought it would be a little bit more brown looking at the watercolor pencil itself, but on my card it's a yellowy brown. And I decided I need splatter. So I'm taking some gold watercolors that I have. I bought this set really affordable on Amazon, and so far I've pretty much only used the gold color for splatter. You know, I've got like the 2 golds, and I've only used the one on the right. It's like the one next to it, it's like almost too yellow. And I like the real rich color that I'm using. I don't know if you can hear it, but a while ago my computer's, my laptop's fan switched on. And so I apologize for that background noise. I don't know what it is about this laptop, but anytime I use any sort of application with a lot that uses up a lot of memory, the fan turns on, drives me nuts. So I decide I'm going to cut down this card. And originally I was going to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. But I end up noticing how close it's cut on the one side to the lollipop, and I decide that I need to try to get a little bit closer on the other side as well, so it looks a little bit more balanced. So I take a little bit more off, not a whole 1/4 of an inch, but almost a 1/4 of an inch. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I'm going to take that blue sheet of paper that you see, the blue cardstock, and I'm going to cut that down to 4 by 5 1/4. Actually, I cut it just slightly bigger than 4 because I want to leave a little bit of white from my card base, but not a whole lot. So you're going to see just a tad of the white peeking through. And then I can put my watercolor paper with the lollipops on the blue. And right here, after I splatter, I am going to stamp out the sentiment, Sweet Birthday Wishes. And I'm going to do that again in the Versamark Black Onyx ink. Ooh, do you hear that? My kitty wants in this room. I've got the door shut and his bed's in here. And he is not happy right now. He's like, Mom, let me in. So I'm going to do that real quick. So I opened the door to let him in, and he ran off. Typical cat. So I love the way that little sentiment looks right there. And I am going to go ahead and I'm just going to glue all my stuff down now. So anyway, I am going to ask you to like me on my cardstock. So if you enjoyed this video at all, please give it a thumbs up. I need it now more than ever, being as I kind of messed with the algorithm by not being here for quite a while. I think almost a month. Not really sure. But you know, I would love to have you give me a thumbs up, please. If you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not a subscriber, I would love to have you. See, I'm begging with cardstock and glue, like me. Pathetic. I have fun. So get that glued down, and at this point I'm really glad that I use liquid glue, because I really have to like move that piece of blue paper around. I kind of get it in like really cockeyed when I first put it down, and so it takes me a few seconds to adjust it. And now I'm going to glue down my watercolor paper. Now I used 2 different glues for this video. I used some Craft Tacky glue, and I started out using some Gina K Connect, but that kind of got clogged halfway through, so I switched to the Craft Tacky glue. And the Craft Tacky is a little bit whiter and thicker. The Gina K Connect, it's a little bit more milky, you know, kind of translucently milky and thinner, but they both work really well. So here are my 3 cards. Do you believe me? It took all that time for just 3 cards, but they turned out rather well. I love birthday card kits. You can always use them and always do fun things with them. So anyway, that's it for now, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.